there is a committee hearing and they're talking about Zuckerbucks. Where exactly did the money go? And journalist Molly Hemingway, who teaches at Hillsdale College and writes for the Federalist, just excoriates Mark Zuckerberg, destroys him. We're going to get to that video. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. So first, this is the actual full committee hearing confronting Zuckerbucks' private funding of election administration. That says everything you need to know is that Zuckerberg gave to help elections, is what he said, right? So you're allowed to do that. It's like get out the vote type stuff. And then where he ended up targeting was all of the poor areas, also known as Democrat areas. So almost all of his money went to help Democrats.
We have allowed the private takeover of government election offices by partisan oligarchs and their armies of activists who use those offices and their authorities to tilt the election toward favored candidates.
Now, given human nature, you have to agree that it's possible. If someone is willing to target Trump with the Department of Justice or create sham lawsuits against him or distribute lies about Russian disinformation and cover up and say Hunter Biden's laptop is false, if you have 55 FBI agents say that it was a false Russian thing, would they not weaponize fundraising to help just one party?
Instead of voters being able to vote for the candidate of their choice, powerful interests backed by wealthy oligarchs are working to remove the most popular candidate and the ruling party's chief opponent from the ballot in a move reminiscent of Soviet Russia.
Is that true? Yes, it is. They're trying to remove Trump's name from the ballot. All of it came after he announced he was running. They could have gotten him any time before. In E. Jean Carroll's case, she could have gotten him 25 years before on the charges of assault. No one said anything. Stormy Daniels, no one said anything. No one said anything until he ran for president.
And if that weren't enough, instead of the top candidates chosen by the people being able to fully engage in a vigorous campaign heading into an election, we have one side actively attempting to throw its opponent in prison and bankrupt his family. Again, reminiscent of Soviet Russia.
That's also true. They're trying to get the money away from him. They're literally trying to throw his business out of New York so that he can't conduct business there. It is obscene. And the Supreme Court right now is looking at the case of allowing his name on the ballot in Colorado. So I do believe he'll win that one, but that shows how desperate the Democrats are at breaking the law.
Instead of a system of rule of law that gives Americans the same rights and due process, the Department of Justice and other partisan actors are prosecuting their opposition, whether powerful or lowly, and doing so in places where partisan juries will ensure a quick conviction.
And again, just to prove her wrong, name one area where the jury will help Trump. Is it DC? No, they vote 92% Democrat minimum. Is it Fulton County, Georgia? No, they know that almost everyone in Fulton County, Georgia famously votes Democrat. So she's telling the truth here. I'm just backing her up.
Instead of a free and independent press that shares news and information to help inform voters, we have a press that is almost exclusively the arm of one political party and is so corrupt that it is willing to perpetrate hoax after hoax against opposition party members.
It was the press that literally rolled out the cover-up. That is, Twitter removed the New York Post for suggesting Hunter Biden's laptop was real. MSNBC, CNN, every single news media outlet promoted the Russia hoax that Adam Schiff started against Trump. And later they found zero proof. The Steele dossier was completely made up.
Instead of a vibrant public square where Americans can debate issues and express their strongly held views, we have an elaborate censorship industrial complex where the government works hand in hand with tech oligarchs to suppress and blacklist debate on all the important issues that contribute to election outcomes.
That's also true. We've all been hit with those things on every platform. Molly herself was hit personally by Twitter for covering the election.
This is something I know firsthand because our government worked with tech companies to censor me for my election reporting.
And I know at least 10 people that were censored. I talk to them all the time. They were flat out hit for their political opinion on these tech websites.
Allowing just one of these attacks to infect our electoral system would be a crisis. Allowing all of them at the same time is an existential threat to our system of self-government.
And so the reason why they're having this hearing is to take care of the next election. What are we going to do? Are we going to let it stand, or are we going to change things to make it fair? And I don't mean fair help Trump. I mean fair.
In the last presidential election, nonprofit groups with very strong ties to the Democrat Party and funded by one of the world's wealthiest and most powerful men, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, took over government election offices, most notably in the Democrat areas of swing states. Since then, the efforts by partisans to further infiltrate government election offices to ensure favorable outcomes have only increased.
And that exposes Mark Zuckerberg guilty. He has spent, I think it was famously $490 million. He put into primarily Democrat. In the case of Georgia, she specifically itemizes all of his expenditures. And you'll see that it was 90% in Fulton. It was targeted, way over targeted with money. And it ended up flipping for Biden. It would make up for the 11,000 votes that Biden got. But I mean, I'm speculating. I don't know what would have, could have happened. But I know that if you're telling me that putting $200 million into a few counties in Georgia wouldn't affect an election, you're the denier and you're the one who believes in conspiracies, buddy. Anyways, we have to get the rules put back. We have to get the rules to be fair. You can't have one party being funded, because now the government's going to get involved. The government is going to be the one that funds these areas. And they, in its defense, I'll give you an example. If an area is primarily minority, let's say poor in Georgia, and you went in and you said, look, we're going to try and get more poor people to vote, then you'd flood that area with more money. And everyone knows that the poor in Georgia, in Fulton County, let's say, are going to be more likely to vote for Biden than Trump. So you're literally funding just one candidate in the name of going after the poor. That's all. That's how this seems to work anyways, if I was going to give the Democrats the benefit of the doubt, which I'm not, because I believe they're doing this intentionally to win an election because they know their candidate can't win. I'm Doug in Exile.